Felicia, we're ready to go.
Great. Very welcome to the second day of the LEAD conference. I hope you had a great day yesterday. And I'm very happy to welcome you on this D&I marketplace. So thanks for joining. Thanks for joining for all of the people who joined via the LEAD portal, but also for our colleagues joining us via the live stream on YouTube. Then also big thanks to the Coca-Cola company who sponsors the D&I marketplace. My name is Felicia Eysink, and I'm the CFO of Europe of Ecaterra, and Ecaterra is the newly formed tea division of Unilever. I'm also part of the LEAD network as the treasurer of the executive committee, so working closely with Mick, Annalie, and also Sharon on this. If you go to the next slide, so basically what we are going to do today is look at basically at the heart, I think, what LEAD Network is all about. But what we're going to do is show best practices from all the companies around us and see how we can share and reapply those learnings in our own companies. So what you will learn today is anything around D&I initiatives, D&I strategies, activities that they have organized by partner companies. And I would encourage you to join these sessions in the live sessions, but also afterwards during the full day, the booths are open on the platform and you can go there to visit the various companies and their hosts to ask and have one-to-one chats and conversations. If we go to the marketplace today, what we can offer you is basically 5 companies who joined us to give their D&I presentation. So we will have the Coca-Cola European Partners Company doing a live stream, and I will talk in a bit more about the content that they will share. We have Kimberly-Clark in breakout room 1. So that is basically the first round. So we have the first round, so you either pick the Coca-Cola company or the Kimberly-Clark. Then we come back to the main room with all of us, and there you have an option to select the 3 other companies where we have P&G, Asahi Europe and International, and IBM lined up to give us a presentation on their D&I practices. So if you think about the first round, what we can offer you is basically the Coca-Cola European Partners, well, Alba Ramos, who happily present them their everyone is welcome philosophy in the company, and talk more about the broader sense of diversity and inclusion, broader than just gender, but also how to go about LGBT, disability, and anything. I think that is a session that is supported in the main room. So if you don't click on anything, you will remain with Alba for a Coca-Cola European Partners session. Then if you click, and that's you will see that on the bottom of your screen, you can select the room. If you go to room 1, you can join Kimberly-Clark with Marina and Marie Ferre to talk around their inclusion and diversity strategy of the past 12 months and how that has supported them to grow further their company. So what I would like to ask you is please go to the bottom of your screen and select either room 1 if you want to go to the Kimberly-Clark, and do nothing if you want to stay with Coca-Cola. The session of the breakout is roughly 20 minutes, and then we will come back to this main room, and then we have the option to join the second round with our 3 partner companies. So good luck, have a great session with it, and I think it's now time to push the button and select your choice.
All right, the rooms are open. Either stay here or please join Kimberly-Clark by selecting room 1. All right, and then here in room 1, we're going to get started with a video from the Coca-Cola company, and they'll be open for questions at the end.
Hi, I'm Julie Thomas, Director of Inclusion, Diversity and Equity at Coca-Cola Euro-Pacific Partners, based in the UK.
And I'm Alba Ramos, Inclusion, Diversity and Equity Manager, working with Julie and based in Madrid, Spain.
At Coca-Cola Euro-Pacific Partners, we make, move and sell some of the world's most loved brands, and it's all made possible by over 33,000 employees supporting our 1.75 million customers. We want to truly represent and connect with the society we serve and positively impact people's lives, communities and futures as an employer, workplace and business.
We were making good progress on inclusion and diversity, but we wanted to go further and faster. So with support from CCP's board and executive leadership team, we accelerated our journey to embed meaningful, consistent change right across our organization with a refreshed and revitalized inclusion, diversity and equity approach. In just 1 year, we have reimagined and embedded our global approach, accelerated the removal of barriers for underrepresented groups, taking our capabilities to the next level, and seeing a stronger engagement on this topic than ever before.
I'm often asked about our approach. Why inclusion, diversity and equity? For me, it's simple. Inclusion is about how we welcome and create a culture where everyone, whatever their background or experience, feels accepted and valued and can contribute to the success of CCP. Diversity, on the other hand, is the mix of all great things that make each and every one of us unique. And while equality is the end goal, equity is where the action actually happens. It's about putting specific interventions in place that really level the playing field.
In early 2020, we finalized our Inclusion, Diversity and Equity Center of Expertise, responsible for reimagining and leading our approach and developing capabilities at a scale. In the summer, we launched our Everyone's Welcome philosophy across CCP. It is deliberately a philosophy because it is simply how we do things and work together with our colleagues, our customers, and our communities. It describes our company's culture, where all people, without exception, can be themselves, be valued, and belong. A culture where everyone can contribute and make a difference. It focuses on the underrepresented and particularly across 5 areas: culture and heritage, disability, gender, LGBT, and last but not least, multi-generations. It complements our commitment to one-of-a-kind people experience with a purpose-led, inclusive culture full of opportunity for all of our employees to develop and for our business to grow sustainably.
For our philosophy to be embedded, we believed it had to be accessible and owned by everyone, not just leaders or the Inclusion, Diversity and Equity Centre of Expertise. It was clear that our senior leadership team and many of our employees felt incredibly passionately and committed to our philosophy. As part of our implementation and communication plan, we wanted to leverage this and provide opportunities for everyone to be truly included, involved in the journey and the solution.
So we worked with our leadership team and identify a lead sponsor to be paired with each of our focused areas. They take accountability for fostering open, honest dialogue and working with leadership to remove barriers for underrepresented groups. We created a narrative and visual identity to visibly and consistently promote our message. We engaged with hundreds of leaders, influencers, allies, and activists, holding briefing sessions on the approach and involving them in amplification. We provided a toolkit to all leaders and key stakeholders, made up for messages, guidance, frequently asked questions, and assets, equipping them to advocate for our philosophy.
Then it got really exciting. We invited all employees to join our In Your Shoes listening sessions, one for each of our focus areas and hosted by our sponsors. We wanted to create a safe, confidential space for our underrepresented groups to voice their experiences directly to our sponsors and understand the most common barriers to inclusion and belonging at CCEP. These sessions were honest, they were educational and incredibly impactful. They gave us the information and momentum we needed to turn dialogue into positive action. In fact, the insights were so valuable that actually we've now run local listening sessions across our functions, including supply chain and field sales, to deep dive into specific cultural barriers.
Using these listening sessions, we set priorities for 2021, and we formed a dedicated group of employees to catalyze action and progress our approach across the board through the course of the year. The catalysts have been at the core of our success so far. Working together, they have been instrumental in raising awareness and opening up conversations on inclusion, diversity. And we know that to get anything done, it has to start with the dialogue.
Indeed, the catalysts really have worked across the business, and some of their amazing activations include the development of an inclusive language guide, an LGBT+ terminology guide, and a guide discussing disability. They've created a series of ambassador videos to encourage allyship and to open up conversations on age stereotypes and culture and heritage. They've supported benchmarking activities internally with the implementation of a disability review across all of our European countries and an LGBT audit covering 23,000 employees. And externally as well, they've been helping, which has culminated in our recognition on the Global Bloomberg Gender Equality Index.
I'm proud that our Everyone's Welcome philosophy is recognizable company-wide. And this was down to the strong communications approach that was developed. We use all channels at our disposal. We use magazines, we use live and virtual panel discussions, notice boards, plasma screens, town halls conversations, and so on. And we continue to ensure that these voices represent all of our people at all levels of the organization, so that they resonate and empower everyone.
We've used 2021 to run a year-long campaign called Breaking Barriers to Inclusion. We've activated the campaign using a month for each of our focus areas and delivered through an intersectional lens. For International Women's Day, we used the whole month of March to challenge gender stereotypes facing both men and women, and also open up the conversation on gender identity and expression. We brought together a panel that included not only Damien Gamble, our CEO, and Sol Darella, our chairman, but also one of our female manufacturing site managers and an award-winning female apprentice. We wanted to demonstrate our investment and commitment to inclusion and diversity, and also showcase some of the amazing women at CCEP who are breaking barriers in perceived male work environments.
Empowering people to break down barriers means building the capabilities, and that is why we've invested in learning for everyone. This year, we have developed and launched 3 inclusion, diversity, and equity learning models. The first one is Starting Your Inclusion Conversation, which provides the foundations on how we understand and talk about inclusion, diversity, and equity, and exploring unconscious bias. The second one is Practicing Inclusive Leadership, where we work with people managers to discuss the risk of accidental exclusion and practicing inclusive habits. And third one, it's allyship, where we explore the different types of allyship and how people can show up as effective allies for others. And in addition to this formal learning, we have built out a self-serve learning platform, which is accessible to everyone. And it has books, articles, podcasts, and TED Talks, all recommended by our colleagues.
We are incredibly proud of the journey we've been on and continue to go on with our Everyone's Welcome philosophy. Our people recognise the commitment being made by our senior leaders in creating a workplace environment where everyone's welcome to be yourself, be valued and belong. And our work goes beyond CCP. We collaborate across the Coca-Cola system, working with other bottlers and brands to make meaningful and sustained impact in industry. But we're not stopping there. We want to amplify the actions being taken by the Centre of Expertise, our sponsors, our ambassadors and allies. We want everyone to understand the impact of exclusion and the benefit of everyday inclusion for them personally, our business, our customers and communities. We need to turn talking into action and action into accountability. And I believe we have the right foundations in place to achieve this. If you'd like to know more about what we are doing to break down barriers to inclusion, diversity and equity at CCP, please take a look around the marketplace, visit our website or ask us a question directly. Thank you.
Thank you.
So thanks everyone. Julie Thomas here. It's very, very difficult looking at yourself talking for 10 minutes when you're actually on the phone line. So I'm the Director of Inclusion, Diversity and Equity at Coca-Cola Euro-Pacific Partners, and I'm joined here by Alba Ramos, who you also saw on the session. And so if you have any questions that you want to ask us, or please, pop them in the chat, or I don't know whether we'll be able to unmute yourselves or not actually. I think I was going to say actually, when Felicia introduced the sessions this morning, she talked about initiatives and strategies. And of course at CCP, we talk about a philosophy. And I think that's really important for us, because what we've established sometimes is when people see an I&D strategy, it feels like it belongs in people and culture, or it's owned by people and culture, or owned by senior leadership. And we're very much trying to move towards a period where, or a place where our values, inclusion and diversity, very much sits alongside our values, and therefore it's a philosophy, and therefore it's not something that you can just choose to do, or that's the responsibility of HR. I mean, let's be frank, this is no longer an HR issue. If we look at the way that people are galvanizing both in workplace and society around women's empowerment, Black Lives Matter, and seeing the inequities that come out of the pandemic over the last year, it's no longer a HR issue or a board issue. It's a workplace, it's a society, it's an industry issue. So that's why for us, a philosophy is so important.
Julie, we have a question on the chat saying, what would you say is the keystone of the whole strategy for CCP?
I think it's the listening piece. So it's the listening and hearing the voice of the employee. So I will put my hands up and often say that we, sometimes in HR or I&D, you feel like you have to know all the answers. Actually, to really just take a step back and hear from the people, their experiences, and then to have them be part of the solution as well. Because that way, when you're no longer making assumptions about the actions you need to take. You're having the people that really want to make change, either the allies or underrepresented groups themselves, actually making sure that all the actions you take reflect and resonate with everybody and not just some. And that gives it credibility and real passion as well. Oh, I can see a lot of questions coming in now. I'm gonna have to scroll down.
I can just take the following one that it says, how do you articulate global versus regional versus local on your different pillars and actions? And actually, I think this is a really good question, because even though we have a global approach, it's really important that you understand what's going on in each country and each region, and to understand that different markets have different priorities. So what helped us really to understand what was going on was to do a maturity matrix and try to understand more where were our countries, so we can then help them elaborate their own action plans. And also it's a bi-directional communication channel, so we can support them, but also of course they support us every day.
And I think building on that, that's something we recognise that we need to do more. So next part of our plan for next year is really embedding I&D in our colleague, customer and community interactions. So we have we're just through the pipeline of completing an global inclusion and diversity survey, And following that in each of our countries, and following that, we've Alba's running a maturity matrix for each of our countries, which will benchmark them against things like, real concrete sort of internal, external benchmark. We will then use the outputs of that to go in and have a real deep dive conversation with each of our local countries on, this is the central framework, but actually what's coming out of your survey results, what's come out of your matrix, if we look at, where you are against the 5 areas of focus, what are your priorities as a country? And then let's work together to build 2 or 3 core actions that you want to take forward next year that align to the global framework. The generational diversity strategy. So, I think, again, this very much, it's a similar, you'll hear a similar answer. We held a listening session and invited people from a multitude of generations from different countries. We heard what their experiences were. They then helped us, those sort of 12 to 16 people then came into the room and helped us to shape the core areas of focus, and that was things like the language used, opportunities, and the language being things like experience versus expertise. Those are kind of core words that really kind of held people back. So it was either, you haven't got enough experience versus actually I can be an expert and I don't have to have been in here for 12 years to be an expert. So very much around sort of language, around breaking down the fact that there are pervasive generational stereotypes. They looked at the data as well, so our ambassadors looked at the data and actually recognized that there didn't seem to be any core areas in the data where we could see that things were happening. So actually it felt a lot around, there's lots of perceptions and myths that exist, and the language, and that's where we've spent a lot of time, and those ambassadors then did a really fantastic video sort of flipping the script on age stereotypes. So they really kind of started talking about, it's not about being experienced, it's about having a growth mindset. So that's where we've taken at the moment with our multi-generations diversity, very much, listen to the people, hear what their experiences are, and then see how we make 1 or 2 very small little changes to try and shift the language and the experience that people have.
Julie, we have a question saying if we can elaborate a bit more on the In Your Shoes sessions. Really quickly, but what we did was In Your Shoes listening session. So after decide our IND strategy global approach, we nominate 5 EOT sponsors, so 1 per each of our diversity pillars. And what we wanted to do is, together with them, understand what our employees were thinking in terms of each of diversity pillar. What were their concerns? How good or bad do they think we were doing it? So we schedule and had these sessions online, but everyone had the opportunity to express, to raise their concern. And it was really helpful because our EOT sponsors understood firsthand what was going on. So it really helped engaging with the cause. And we had these at the beginning, so I think last year and a half, and it really helped us first understand, but also elaborate a first plan for the action plan later on each area. So what our priorities were, what were the gaps, what were the things we needed to understand and to pay attention to. So yeah, I don't know, Julie, if you want to add anything else.
Sorry, I was right. I was looking at the next question. I'm sure it was amazing. Sorry. So I was going to pick up the question around where are we in the journey now, and how do we get to the next stage? I think that was from Maria. So I'm going to be really frank. We have spent the last 18 months developing awareness and advocacy of the everyone's welcome philosophy, and it really has. We've really thrown, I would say, everything in the kitchen sink at. We want everyone to really understand the philosophy, what underpins it, be able to talk about it. And we've done a lot of focus with the ambassadors on allyship and advocacy and awareness. The next thing is to move advocacy, allyship and awareness into action. So the next thing is really about how we move talking into action and how we make everyone accountable for really making this a success. Because at the moment we have, 1,000+ amazing ambassadors, but we have 33,000 people. So we want everyone to be really behind this. So the things that we'll be doing, data-driven conversations. So that I&D survey, the maturity matrix, that will enable us to really go back to that next level down of leadership, because our ELT, our sort of ELT -1, they're really bought in. But that ELT -2, we need to really get into them and really start to have those data-driven conversations around, this is what your people are experiencing. This is actually what your numbers look like. This is where you need to, this is what you need to do to move from compliance to, you know, world class. And that's what we'll need to do. And we really need to go into those supply chain and those commercial areas and really bring to life where inclusion and diversity shows up in that supply chain, the impact and the influence of doing inclusion and diversity actually really will help you with your, you know, customer interactions. Because then when we turn it into, it's really linked to growth as well as retention, I think we'll start to get even more of those managers and those individuals switched on, and they'll realize it's, as my colleague Annette says in Germany, it's not an orchid that you can water, it's something that you've got to do every day.
That's a really lovely point to close on. We've got about a minute before everybody else comes back in. A really big thank you, Alba and Julie. Any final word before while we wait for everybody else to come back in?
I was just going to say there are loads of questions here. I wish I could answer them all. If we keep hold of them, we'll try and to work out how to get some of those responses, because things like how to deal with it in supply chain, really critical. And I guess that's the final thing. There is no one size fits all. We really have to develop interventions that suit the needs of the individuals and the functions in which you're operating in. So, you know, this is our approach. It will be very different in every country and in every company.
I would just
thank you for listening.
To add that if you want to book some time with us, or you can go to the booth and ask the questions there, we will be answering them today. So yeah, and thank you for listening all. Thank you.
Fantastic. All right.
Excellent. Thanks a lot, Julie and Alba. Really insightful.
So I think, all right. So I think we've got everybody coming back in.
Yeah.
The most interesting place. We were stopped.
All right, everybody, welcome back. Felicia, back to you.
Yeah, so welcome back for joining Coca-Cola and Kimberly-Clark. I hope you really liked the sessions. I think the nice thing of these smaller breakout groups is that you get to quite intimate sessions and Q&A, which really contributes to the insights and the real story behind the companies. So I found it really insightful to join. Thanks a lot also for the live stream audience. I think you will now zoom out, and we hope you find it also insightful, and we hope to see you back next lead